Hey everybody, what's up? It's James, otherwise known as the Skate Punk Lefty. Finally here back after 2 months with a new video. I've been spending a lot of time with my child and my wife and taking care of them and working. I really just haven't had the energy or time to get back on here to do a video. And I finally, after all this time, have finally have some time to make a video. And we are back and this is what we're going to cover in this video at least. So today we are going to cover, okay, so for those of you who don't know, there was an assassination attempt against Donald Trump, I believe about a month or two ago. It was a while back, like yeah, July 13th, just over a month, and I believe I'm estimating 2 weeks at Butler, Pennsylvania. Some crazy guy climbed the roof and attempted to, fire at Donald Trump. And they say he got lucky that he turned his head when he was speaking at the podium, because if he didn't turn his head properly, at this time, because Trump didn't know, he was just talking, I believe, about immigration, ironically enough, and he turned his head, and the bullet clipped his ear, and if he didn't turn his head properly, that would have been the end of Donald Trump right there. The dude that shot him, as you can see his name right there, Thomas Matthew Crooks, some 20-year-old man who was ironically enough, a registered Republican. But I can make arguments about Republican talking points, and right wing, fever, this fever dream of radicalism. It makes their own like electorate and their own people dangerous to their politicians as well as other people, both liberals and leftists. But that's a whole nother argument for another time. Point is that this happened, and I can see on Wikipedia right here, I'm reading it 50 days ago, and there's been a lot of questions and concerns surrounding this incident and a lot of conspiracy theories that we're going to get into with this Piers Morgan interview. I watched this like a month ago. I remember it was insane shit said in this interview, but let's just one thing we can do is get started, I guess.
From the tragedy on Saturday is to finally order the Secret Service to protect R.F. Kennedy Jr. The last thing America needs right now.
I mean, I guess President Joe Biden didn't really. Number one, I guess at the end of the day, this assassination attempt did spur on the fact that every single person that was running, at least at the recording of this video, that was running as a candidate, needed protection because this showed that things were getting kind of real out there. So, Robert F. Kennedy, I despise the guy, but I understand why Joe Biden would want security for the guy.
Is yet more political violence, especially involving a Kennedy. Well, in a moment, we'll meet tonight's panel to debate all this, but joining me now is the former counter-sniper in the State Department and the current Florida Republican Congressman, Corey Mills. Corey Mills, thank you very much indeed for joining Uncensored. First of all, I can't think of anyone better equipped in the political world than you to comment on what appears to have been a massive failing by the Secret Service on Saturday in their duty to protect President Trump. What did you make of it?
Well, I just wanted to say I really loved your monologue just now that talked about the idea of dialing down political rhetoric on both sides, as well as the dangers of utilizing words like in the bullseye or, regardless of what he says.
Oh, I have forgotten a lot about this shit because when they said put Trump in the bullseye with political ads, that's what they meant. And nobody knew nothing or thought about anything having to do with an assassination attempt. And I'm going to say this probably multiple times during this interview. Joe Biden have offhandedly saying put him in a bullseye does not compare to the amount of hateful and despicable avocation for political violence that we've seen on the right, both the mainstream right, like the conservatives, and as you go further right or to the non-mainstream people like Jack Posobiec and Nick Fuentes. Because keep in mind that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the left doesn't do this in its own way, but the things that the left attack about individuals are not intrinsic to the way that they are. The right wing, across the world, the right wing people view not governments, not institutions, not ideals necessarily as enemies of their movement. They view people of their movement and as political adversaries, and will, advocate for horrible things happening to people, like, black people or other people of color, such as Asians and Middle Easterns, Hispanic people, LGBT people, and just queer presenting people, women, and others, especially those who are outspoken against the issues that they deal with. They don't view them as people who are they just disagree with and they want to make a better life for in general. They view them as political adversaries and will laugh and defend instances of political violence or persecution against people who are living their lives different than them.
He went to indicate, it's obviously what he indicated was that he wants to put him in the crosshairs. But, I just want to go ahead and say that, this, in my opinion, is such a massive failure. It's such a big negligence on behalf of the advanced teams to say that a target, which is 160 yards away, perfectly adjacent to the stage, was outside the perimeter. The perimeter is formed and it's discerned by the counter sniper teams, by the advanced teams, and by the security details. I can tell you, as someone who's conducted thousands of advances, both on the Afghan and Iraq side, as well as for back home, has done multiple counter sniper team deployments, looking at overwatch positions, looking at how we were
150 meters from the President Trump, who has been president and may well be again.
Well, it seems very suspicious,
I mean, I don't think it's really suspicious because at the end of the day, I know I just skipped it because I already know the conspiracy theory is that it was weird that the Secret Service and all the other people. Because look, number one, nobody thinks anybody is crazy or stupid enough to attempt any sort of political violence against a president, a presidential candidate, or a former president, because people just assume that it would be a suicide mission. So you don't see a lot of people trying to do shit like that. And maybe the Secret Service and a local police force did neglect to, to like comb this building. But at the end of the day, Trump is still alive. He missed, and the Secret Service did do their job, because it's not just about surveying the surrounding area. The Secret Service also did their job by making sure they used their literal bodies as human shields to protect Donald Trump from this attempt on his life. So this garbage about it being a conspiracy theory to just let this person on this roof, I can't get behind it. Even though I skipped forward some because I don't feel like listening to this guy's interview, is I've heard the conspiracy theory before about why was this person allowed up there. Not to mention the fact the police and Secret Service, FBI, whoever else was there, can't be everywhere 24/7. There's always going to be cracks in systems where people climb things they're not supposed to climb. People sneak. People, connive to move in ways to, to do things that they aren't supposed to do. That's the nature of just being alive. At least in my opinion.
In police work, they call these clues. The thing that really was sounding off to me, though, is the fact that, at a minimum, let's just go ahead and give every single possibilities of just negligence as opposed to something else. You could have put and said there's not enough resources. All right, fine. Let's put a patrol car in the parking lot of AGR, which was the company, with the doors locked and the lights on. There's a deterrence. Let's look at the fact that an emergency comms channel should have been set in place for the Secret Service and the local police force in cooperation and coordination, so that when that officer who came to the rooftop and says that he had
I'm sure it was. The local police in Secret Service, when they're doing stuff like this, I'm sure that they regularly communicate with each other. So I don't know what you mean by that.
Rifle pointed at him, could have immediately descended and keeping himself safe, and also said, shoot her on the roof, shoot her on the roof, shoot her on the roof, which would allow the detail to have then immediately gotten on the stage to protect the
He did. That's how they counter sniped them. That did happen when the person was seen on the roof. Because it's hard to climb a ladder and climb up on top of a roof and aim your weapon too while also surveying somebody. So he got counter sniped. There was, I'm sure, some communication.
President, there's so much about this, Piers. Not to mention there was a water tower that was only a couple hundred yards away, which is a sniper's paradise that people aren't even talking about. This shot, Piers, is so simple. And I just want to paint a picture for your viewers, which is that if you were to take not even a sniper rifle, but your basic production rifle that comes off an assembly line that you could buy in a average store, and you were to take a person with very little experience, in 10 minutes, I could train them to be able to utilize this rifle to hit targets at a pie-sized...
No, you can't. This is some bullshit right here. Like, you know, this spot was so open and I could have trained somebody with the 10 minutes. First of all, bro, when it comes to using firearms and weapons and to make, you know, shots like this, if you're not like in the army or something like that, it takes years to get the skill to make these shots and to train yourself to be good with with a rifle, you know, to make long distance rifle shots. So this bullshit about I could have trained somebody in 10 minutes to do this is garbage, bro. It's more conspiracism.
Plate at 200 yards without a problem.
Well, actually, I mean, just on that point, when I was at CNN, I spent a day down in Texas at a gun store and a gun range. Female agents in front of him was clearly a lot shorter than Donald Trump, and therefore his whole sort of upper...
No, not this one, bro. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? See, I'm getting tired of, bro, with all these people, you know, conservatives, the fascists, and the so-called red pillars, but I repeat myself. They always saying when a woman is in a position of service, whether it's the military, you know, right now the Secret Service or police force, they're always talking about how women are inadequate in doing these jobs, while at the same time, they are never the people that are doing these jobs themselves. And the only thing that they do is they get behind fucking cameras and complain about women being inadequate doing this and that when they can barely make it up a flight of fucking stairs. Like, I don't see you protecting, I forgot who is it now, your king or queen or any of the fucking MPs, Piers Morgan. Get off your fat lazy ass and join, you know, an armed service. And, you know, be somebody that has done something with their fucking lives physical. And don't, you know, be this guy, a fucking news commentator, and then challenge the adequacy of anybody of any gender that's doing, you know, a service police work role. Whether it's the actual police or military or like secret services, MI6, anything. Like, get off your lazy ass and do something.
Torso, including his head, was clearly visible to potentially other shooters who may have been...
And that's why they tackle him to the ground. That's the reason why they get him to the ground. He's not supposed to stand there and be shielded by women walking side to side. Plus, it was men up there. And it's up to him if he wants to be smart enough to hunch down and hide behind them. Or if he wants to be a proud dumbass and stand all the way up.
In the area, which nobody knew at the time. That does not strike me as normal Secret Service protocol.
Well, you know, they did a good job of putting the body barrier on it. But I will note, though, prior to actually having the president's...
That's all you need to say. You should, like, really shut the fuck up. Come on. Because I want to move on to the panel, because I think this is going to be the antithesis of why I wanted to cover this subject of political violence, hypocrisy that we keep having to deal with from conservatives.
More likely than not now to remain the Democrat nominee.
Yeah.
It's funny because he didn't know, and hindsight's 2020.
So there's no reason to unilaterally surrender to Donald Trump now, but that's what it looks like the Democrats are doing. So I hope that they pick up the campaign to oust Biden again, because he's clearly not going to win. All the interviews are disasters. I don't want to surrender to Trump, but apparently Democratic officials are considering it, which would be just keeping Biden in the race. That is a form of surrender, because they don't want to waste any of their so-called talent because they're so despondent about the race. I think that's pathetic. They should fight. And if they have a new ticket, they still have a perfectly good chance of beating Donald Trump. Now, I do want to say, though, there's a second topic here. Your interview with Corey Mills, Representative Mills there, I think it was dangerous and wrong. So you guys said, oh, well, you know, this shouldn't be a partisan thing and we should turn down the rhetoric. And then you implied that maybe the Secret Service or the Biden administration allowed the shooting to happen.
Well, nobody implied
that.
Yes, they did. That was that entire first half of this interview was them, and that's the entire right-wing conspiracy theory. First of all, I need to say this because this has been on my head all these months since this happened. Saying shit like we should turn down the rhetoric on fascists, on white supremacists, on people that want to subvert democracy for their own agendas, because they're rich, their own agendas because they have a problem with colored people or queer people, women, etc. This is how those people take over countries, and they destroy nations. They destroy entire groups and demographics of people, and they spread their theories of agony to other countries. It's when we don't crack down, because if we can't even talk about how horrible and despicable some of these politicians that we have to deal with are, we won't progress as a society, and we won't lock them out of office, when we don't talk about the horrible shit that they want to do. So if people are calling Donald Trump a fascist, most people that call him that, most people that know the word fascist, whether people want to believe it or not, has evidence to substantiate those claims about him being a fascist. And again, this loose goose bullshit about being nice to a person who said that the Central Park Five should have faced capital punishment. The person that said during the Charlottesville rally, oh, these are very fine people on both sides. The person that said that like these non-white South American countries were S-hole countries. That's constantly going around saying how if when you're a star they just let you do it. This person who has done nothing with his entire time in the public eye, at least in terms of politics, but spread hateful, bigoted rhetoric, proposed bigoted policies like the Muslim ban and stuff like that. Oh, we need a Muslim ban. What about the terrorism? And when most terror attacks are done by white nationalists and white supremacy, but we don't see him talk about banning white people. Not the point here, but at the end of the day, is that his rhetoric and the policies that he proposed, especially with the Project 2025 shit that has come out within the past couple of months, you need to attack him on the things that he's advocating for. Him and JD Vance and their associated politicians. Because again, allowing this rhetoric to go unchecked and pretending like he's even, and I say you should even do people like Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush the same way, like he's going to be a run-of-the-mill conservative, but at least do small common sense things, is asinine. And again, that leads to a country and possibly a world or a hemisphere of persecution of innocent people, when you don't at least talk about the things that these people want to do, or talk about the things they've done.
You definitely did, Piers.
Well, I certainly did.
You kept talking about, well, look, I'm not saying conspiracy theory, but hey, it's so easy to find. Why didn't they find it? And you didn't just say negligence.
Hang on, I didn't.
And forget about you, Corey Mills.
Right, okay.
He didn't say,
okay.
He said, maybe it's not just malpractice. Maybe.
And this is the part where one thing I noticed about right-wing people, and some people say that you shouldn't / don't want to debate right-wing people anymore, and I understand that. And Piers Morgan right here is demonstrating why a lot of people feel that way, because it's hard to debate somebody that will not shut the fuck up. Because right-wing people, at the end of the day, and Piers Morgan, as far as I'm concerned with what I'm seeing from him, is a fascist too. At the end of the day, they work so hard from conspiracy theories and ignorance, and when you actually hit them with facts and you talk about the way that the world really works, they cannot stop. They can't shut the. I have to cuss on this one. I'm sorry, YouTube. They can't shut the fuck up. They can't. They can never. They can't stop talking. They can't stop themselves from talking, because you will literally call them out for some shit. Like you'll be like some they'll say, well, this conspiracy theory, right? And then you'll be like, how is this conspiracy theory through when this? And then they'll start talking over you. That's all they can do in debates anymore, is just cry and talk over people and act innocent. And then you call them a conspiracy theorist, a white supremacist, a homophobe, whatever label. You're hitting me with labels. You act like you're better than me. How do you know this, but this happens? Like I think a good example is like you're debating a racist white person about racism, and they be like, white people experience racism too. I was called a white boy when I was visiting downtown yesterday. These people said, hey, white boy, do you have $1? Nah, I would have gave him $1 if he just didn't use this racist insult calling me a white boy. And I'm like, do you think there's any legacy of racist hatred or systemic oppression that comes from be called a white boy? But you're saying it's not racist. See, you hate white people. You can't stop. And then they won't shut the fuck up. They won't shut the fuck up.
Maybe it's not just negligence.
I didn't say that.
Is a lunatic suggesting?
Am I allowed to respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I didn't say anything that you just said.
No, because Cenk Uygur he shouldn't have let him say anything. I understand his show and he could have kicked him out and stuff like that, but he should not let him respond it until he was finished with what he was saying. because this is how they get you. They let you tell some of the truth of the things that you want to say to substantiate your claim, and then they start playing innocent. Are you gonna let me talk? Are you gonna let me talk, please? Because you could be talking about, that the N-word is actually associated with dehumanization of black people, and then they are the ones trying to talk over you, but you gotta let them talk.
Said. Secondly, he did raise the spectre that there's something very odd about this. And by the way, there is. I'm not a conspiracy theorist either. But the idea that the President Trump, who was recently the President of the United States and is very likely to be again, was shot from 150 meters by a kid with an AR-15 who was seen by spectators nearly a minute before he unloaded 8 bullets in the direction of Donald Trump is very, very strange. And if you don't think it is, then I think you're...
If he was seen by spectators climbing that roof, why didn't they go tell a police officer that they saw him? That's if those people are telling the truth.
Being a little bit disingenuous. Now, what is the nature of that strangeness? We don't know what's happened here, right? But no one can yet give a legitimate explanation as to why this could possibly have happened.
Piers, if you say it's negligence, I'm with you.
It was negligence. Like I said, I think that the police, FBI, and Secret Service didn't think when they were planning out this rally. Because keep in mind, there has not been an assassination attempt in a very long time. I think since like Ronald Reagan. I think that was the last time. And assassination attempts on presidents have, at least ones that are direct, have died down over the past couple of decades. So I feel as though the answer would be negligence because they, both the police and the general public, we imagine to ourselves that we moved past the need for these assassinations and this sort of bellow of political violence, and that's why it happened. Simple as that.
You say it's malpractice. Okay, I get it. 160 feet. Why is he on the roof, etc. But you're clearly implying that it is odd, as in not negligence, but something that was planned by the government.
No, I'm not. I don't know.
Hey, get out of here, man! What the hell? Jesus Christ, with these lunatic Republicans. Total lunatic Republicans. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me your lunatic conspiracy theory about how odd.
I don't have any conspiracy theories. Do you not think it's odd, Cenk Uygur, that this kid could stroll across a roof unmanned and just fire off 8 bullets at President Trump from 150 meters? Do you not find that odd?
So
I mean, if the rifle is automatic or semi-automatic, you can do it pretty quickly. I don't understand what's the implied conspiracy here. Like, there was negligence and he got on the roof. It's really that simple. I'm going to skip forward.
I find it deeply troubling. I think that there should be an investigation to see how they screwed this up. I think the fact that they didn't get there on the roof quicker it speaks poorly of them.
If you can't find it in you to chastise people who do that, aren't you just as despicable as the people you've just spent the last 2 minutes haranguing? No. Let me bring in Destiny, because you've been at the center, as you know, of a massive online response to what you were saying.
Here go the part that I was looking for. We are almost to the end of my version of this video, and this is what I wanted to talk about, is that should we feel sympathy for Donald Trump or his supporters when bad things happen to them? I ain't going to answer that right now. We're going to wait to see what everybody says, then I'm going to say how I feel after.
And I want to go through what you said, and I want to talk to you about this hopefully in a calm manner to try and understand what you were thinking. So on Saturday evening, hours after the shooting, you said, let me clarify, when I say conflicted, what I mean is I lean towards seeing it as a natural extension of the thing Trump and the MAGA kids support. So I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt enough to chastise people celebrating it. You couldn't find it in your heart to chastise people for celebrating the near assassination of a man who was president of the United States and maybe again?
Absolutely not. Conservatives have completely bled that well dry. And the idea that they, after engaging in the most divisive and most extreme rhetoric that this country has seen in recent history, that they would come on and beg for sympathy, that it's escalated into some kind of violent confrontation is absolutely insane. Even the idea right now of saying, well, if you call somebody a Nazi for so long, it's, what do you expect people to do? I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh call Obama a communist every single day he was on the radio. You've got conservatives that talk about how the mRNA vaccines were ways to sneak microchips into us. You've got COVID lockdowns that were done because the government's trying to take all your freedom away. They won't acknowledge anything that happened on January 6th. They say that the election was stolen and that your country is being taken from you. Like, I don't think anybody should be killed. I don't think anybody should go out and kill anybody. But when you engage in this type of rhetoric, and when you turn the temperature up over and over and over and over again, there is absolutely no room for you to be shocked or surprised. And there certainly isn't room for you to ask for sympathy.
But you say, but Destiny.
No, I'm going to add to what he said before that, because they notice Dave Rubin, bitch ass, he can't shut the fuck up, neither can Piers Morgan, because they're at the end of the day fascists themselves or fascist collaborators. And I completely concur with what Destiny just said. And they're now trying to posit the question of, should we have sympathy for Donald Trump in conservatives when bad things happen to him? And my answer will, in short, be no. And here's why. To add to what Destiny was saying, even with all that other stuff that I don't even have on my mind necessarily, as you know, I'm not even going to say that as a black person. We're just going to talk about things that the conservative right-wing movement in America advocates for, and the things that their political pundits and commentators and the politicians, from people in the House to the people in the Senate to Trump himself and Vance and Pence, have said in the policies that they propose, have done over the years. First of all, on every single level, whether we're talking workers' rights, rights for people of color, LGBT people, and what I really think about when I think about this question is the surge in white supremacist and right-wing violence that we are seeing fomented on our country. So, for instance, when different type of mass shootings happen, some of these mass shootings are at random and by people with not necessarily any political motivations. But we have seen many mass shootings and other terror attacks motivated by bigotry, racism, sexism, homophobia. We had harassment campaigns waged against women that look queer and that disagree with like the red pill and stuff like that. People who aren't even necessarily political, people who are just on the internet and they hear like Andrew Tate say some crazy shit and they be like, hey bro, this guy's tripping. And then the next thing you know is thousands of people in their direct messages haranguing them for just disagreeing with somebody that whose politics or social ideas that they disagree with. And to move forward with what I'm saying here, because I have to substantiate it first, is that when horrible things happen to liberal or people on the far left, they laugh, celebrate, and try to justify it every single time. Every mass shooting, every beatdown, every policy that takes rights from or hurts people that they dislike, that they feel is on the opposite side of their movement, which includes entire demographics of people. Because keep in mind, as a socialist, I'm against the idea or the social policy and the economic practice of capitalism. I'm against the social ideas of white supremacy. I'm against the idea of persecuting people for being queer. I'm against ideas. I don't come on my podcast talking about how I want to do something about the whites and the sticks that need to get in line and understand my agenda. They say that about us, how constantly you have all these groups of people, the 3%ers, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, so many neo-Nazi and Klan detachments that you got resting across America, speaking about how they want to take their country back. You got people with entire armories talking about, this is for the Civil War that's going to happen one day. The blacks are already attacking our police officers. They're going to come for me. And when they come for me and try to invade my house, I want to be ready. And, these people are violent people at the end of the day. So when horrible shit happens to them, not saying that it should happen, it's hard to feel sympathy for people. I think my most prime example is the Ahmaud Arbery case, which was a murder that was done in, I believe, February of 2020 in Georgia of a black man jogging through some type of Georgia backcountry residential neighborhood. There was some theft and some missing property and stuff like that, but instead of just counting it as a loss, because sometimes things get stolen and you don't get it back. What they literally did was find the first black person and chase him down and lynch that man. And, and recorded the video and went to the police like they didn't do anything wrong, when there was no substantial evidence or proof that this black man had anything to do with what the fuck they were talking about. Every single conservative on the internet was trying to justify the murder of this man. And while even in other circumstances, like with George Floyd and stuff like that, you can sort of, even though you really shouldn't, have some back and forth with that. With Sonia Massey, people are trying to have back and forth with that. But it seems like every time something happens to somebody that they view as a political adversary for simply being black or queer or whatever, or like the nightclub shooting. Remember Tim Pool said, oh, they need to leave our children alone, or stuff like this is going to keep happening. He said something in the realm of that. These people constantly, or Nick Fuentes, the best way for Hispanic people not to get killed is for them to not fucking be here. They constantly try to justify political violence or laws that persecute minorities or women, and then when it comes back around to them, because some conspiracy theories, some right-wing conspiracy theories are so dead in the head that they will even attack Republicans. They want everybody to feel sorry for them and, like, you know, bow down to them. Oh no, poor Trump. Like, F that. No, I'm not about to feel sorry for a narcissistic white supremacist getting his just desserts.
You say you don't want anybody killed, and yet you say, I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt to chastise people celebrating it. People celebrating the near assassination of Donald Trump. If you can't find it in you to chastise people who do that, aren't you just as despicable as the people you've just spent the last 2 minutes haranguing?
No, because they've led the way. This is the end.
How about shit like this? And we can bring up Trump's very fine people comments on the Charlottesville neo-Nazi rally, but keep in mind, you had right-wing commentators that said, ever hire a woman that was run over in a terrorist attack by James Alex Fields, a neo-Nazi, died of a heart attack, and not because she was clipped by the car. That's the type of shit that they constantly say, I've been in politics for the past I've been active in politics since high school, pretty much since high school. Those were my liberal days, before I was even like a left-wing person. I've been active in politics for like 10 years now, 11 years now. And in every instance, in every instance of something bad happening to a liberal or left-wing person, or somebody that's simply with an identity that they view as a political adversary, they try and justify it or change up the story.
Environment that they've created.
So you think behaving like the people you think are despicable is the correct course of action?
Not about behaving like the people who are despicable would be leading that type of rhetoric. It would be denying every single bad thing. How many times as a liberal? How many times as a liberal have you been on a show? Not you in general, but like a liberal been on a show and you've been forced to disavow all of the BLM riots, disavow all of the violence, and blah blah blah. And then you talk to conservatives about January 6th. That was
that's good. Yeah.
January 6th.
It's not even mentioning the fact that most of the Black Lives Matter protests, first of all, people who are against the Black Lives Matter protests are obviously just racist people or grifters that are trying to use racism for views or to get their further white supremacist beliefs across, and they use the small instances of violence or things on fire to try to justify condemning a civil rights movement for black people in general. It works double of promoting racism against black people in its class division from working class white people and black people and others. And not to mention the fact, I believe I saw a study that said like 95% of Black Lives Matter rallies were peaceful. And in 2020, I went to some of those rallies and they were peaceful, I went to rallies where no one got arrested. And most of the riots that happened were police riots. And some of the stuff that got burned down or instances of cops getting beaten up or injured and stuff like that was ironically done by right-wing people. And as he's about to say, yes, they won't disavow January 6th. They did as it happened, but as time has moved forward, they are trying to get a hold of the narrative already to say that it was a PSYOP, it was the CIA, it was Antifa, it was the BLM riots. They constantly try to, subject change or subvert the actual narratives of history of what actually happened on that day, or just in politics in general. A lot of the time, these motherfuckers are the reason about why people think fascism is a left-wing ideology and think that Hitler was a socialist.
Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied. There is an entire cultural.
In real time. That's it.
What?
That's why.
I don't really have nothing to say here.
Conservatives deserve absolutely zero sympathy for anything that happens as a result of their rrhetoric. That's it. It's so easy. Like, it's so simple.
I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I would say this is the type of person that the internet has broke their brain, thus leaving them with very little empathy for their co-human. I mean, a good, decent father is now dead because of this. He's had his brains blown out.
I ain't gonna say anything that I can't say on camera about him saying that. But what I will say is, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it really did happen in real time, where these people can not, accept or substantiate the things that their side does, but try to blame every single thing on the left and expect us, the left and the liberals, to, which are two different things, by the way, to try to, disavow all violence and stuff like that, while they make excuses for their violence.
Out because he was defending his wife and daughter. I would hope that you have a little empathy for that.
Let me jump in there, because we have a clip of what Destiny has said about that very thing. Let's listen to this.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude, the firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay? Just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away, whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am 100%.
I mean, I got to say, I just found that repulsive, Destiny.
You want to know, and it's like I said earlier in this video, I don't really find it repulsive or questionable, because at the end of the day, not only was, because, like, keep in mind, throughout this entire interview, they are ignoring the fact that the person that tried to assassinate Donald Trump was a right-winger. He was a Republican. So there's no reason to still be trying to get us to disavow violence and try to, get us to, feel sorry for these people, to get us to take a sort of responsibility for what happened. Because the person that tried to do this, I was thinking about that too. Like, hopefully it wasn't somebody with a bunch of, like, anti-fascism shit all over their profile, or who they were and stuff like that. But it turned out this is a right-wing Republican white guy. He wasn't queer or anything else. It was just a Republican white guy that tried to assassinate Donald Trump. So I'm still not understanding. And then they're talking about the guy who got killed too in the crowd. That wasn't a leftist or a liberal. Why do we have to feel sorry for something that we didn't have anything to do with? And then, not to mention the fact, again, we are ignoring the type of people a lot of conservatives are, and the things that they actually believe, and the questionability of, just like, how can I say this the cleanest way possible? The questionability of seeing sympathy in people who have no sympathy for anybody else. Because that's all of conservatism. Keep in mind, these are literally the people, and I think this will get my point across in a clean, YouTube-friendly way. These are the same people that think sympathy and empathy are associated with femininity and queerness. I've been on too many podcasts and TikTok debates where I talk about having empathy and sympathy for the average person, or women, or LGBT people, or for, black people who just didn't make it in life, and you get called, slurs for it, and your manhood questioned. So no, and even sometimes your humanity gets questioned. That's if sometimes you don't go into these debates and interviews, and or even if you're like a larger public figure, not to mention the garbage that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama had to deal with over the years. You still have people calling that woman a man. Not to mention the fact, concurrently as we speak, like the boxer from I forget the name of the place, is people out here, thanks to people like Libs of TikTok and all the rest of these people and their followers, that done had their lives ruined, or they've been unalived because a Republican or conservative or right-wing commentator posted a lie on the internet. And there's enough plausible deniability between them and a lie that they posted that they can't be prosecuted for the death or the ruin of people's lives.
I wish that there is no room. There is no room for the hand wringing, and I will not participate in this anymore.
It's not hand wringing.
The hand wringing. No, it absolutely is.
No, it's just that
It absolutely is hand wringing, bro. Because again,
positioning yourself.
So well.
No, but
when you are
Destiny, let me explain to you.
Where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a conservative.
They can have any conspiracy theory.
I'm not a conservative.
They can have any plot. They can do anything, and then liberals are supposed to sit and be like, "Oh my God, it's so tragic."
No, Destiny,
absolutely not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position, because I'm not a conservative. I'm not.
Yes, he is. Piers Morgan is a conservative. I've never seen him say let alone let anything left-leaning like socialist or social democratic, value. I've never heard him say. I've never heard Piers Morgan say a liberal thing, because at least most liberals are smart enough, a lot of the times to know fascism when they see it, and how how paramount it is to stand against the fascist movement that we're seeing, and not to have so much sympathy for somebody who at the end of the day is not only a political enemy, but somebody who's enemy of the United States of America because of the laws that he's broken.
On either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are...
You cannot name one situation, one mass shooting / terror attack, or time some horrifying legislation was passed that stripped people of their rights, that Republicans have had sympathy for the things that people go through. And the only time they do have sympathy, they have to be completely backed into a corner on the situation. You still got people that say the conspiracy theory that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. Like, only thing you really have to do for conservatives, any conservative commentator, you can just go back for the past 10 years and watch all their videos. That's if they weren't a grifter like Dave Rubin, who turned from left to right because there's more money on the right. And but somebody like Tucker Carlson is a good example. Ben Shapiro is a good example. Nick Fuentes is a good example. Andrew Tate's a good example, even though on a smaller level, of the horrible shit that these people advocate for.
Exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally. A man who was...
Nobody is saying that he deserved it, but people are not going to have sympathy for somebody who was at a Donald Trump rally. To be at a Donald Trump rally in a front row, like, just ask, like, I'm not going to say you got to bring somebody back. Like, the average, like, you ever seen, like, what's my man's that do the interviews on the Daily Show? I don't know, Adam Mockler, and a couple other people do it. Or you can go to, like, Channel 5. I'll be covering my first Channel 5 video in a few minutes. Stay tuned. But you go to these rallies, these right-wing rallies, and you see the shit that they say and advocate for. Like, bro, these are the same motherfuckers who think like Hispanics are like overrunning the border and like stealing jobs from white people. These are the same people who think Nazism is a left-wing ideology. These are the same people who think women who have to endure sexual assault deserved it because the clothes that they were wearing. These are the same people who think when a black person is killed by a white supremacist vigilante or the police, it's always justified. These are the same people who thinks that the average working person doesn't deserve organization in their work, and that we should actually lower wages and get the government out of there. These are the same people who make Confederate states' rights arguments so that southern states can subvert the rights of minorities if they feel like it. These are not people, because like I said, they are, I'll say that they are uneducated. They might not know certain things. But it's also a point where you're so deep into the conspiracy theories, or you have a motivated reasoning for your ignorance, like white supremacy or homophobia, where do we draw the line? And again, this type of feel sorry for them bullshit is how the Nazis took over Europe in the 1930s. Is that we never draw a real line. We keep joking about the harm that these people cause and the things that they do. And it keeps coming to the point of, where do we draw the line? Where do we say that certain behaviors and certain ideals are unacceptable? To the extent where we don't have empathy for these people when bad things happen to them, because they don't have, not only do they not have empathy for things that happen to people that they view are their political adversaries, but they also propose laws that hurt people that they dislike.
President of the United States until recently for 4 years and maybe again. You sound almost gleeful, Destin. I'm sorry. That makes you, frankly, despicable.
He didn't sound gleeful. He just said, I don't really care. You know, even though I wouldn't say that because, you know, and then he even backed up his statement by saying, you know, death is bad. You know, we should all live a natural life as long as we possibly can. But he's also saying, you know, he's not gonna like bow down and feel sorry for him either. Because again, that's how, you know, that's how you lose nations to fascists. Is by placating and feeling sorry for them.
I don't think I'm gleeful about anything. I don't think anybody should die. I don't think anybody deserves to die. But you want to talk about gleeful? Look at the conservative response to Pelosi's husband when they broke in.
I can answer that.
Mainstream media
I can answer that.
I don't care.
I can answer that.
You can't answer that. No, we're comparing two things, Piers Morgan, and this is the shit I be talking about. He's talking about something. He's not a conservative. Yes, when Nancy Pelosi's husbands got attacked. Boy, oh fucking boy, bro. Like, just thinking about this conspiracy theory, it's hard to even repeat this shit because it's so stupid. Like, they said that Nancy Pelosi's husband, who I believe is like 80 years old, was gay, and his gay lover broke in and tried to unalive him. What the fuck kind of shit is that? And it's ignoring the fact that they spent the past 3 or 4 years saying all that they said about Nancy Pelosi. And he originally broke in there to attack Nancy Pelosi.
I don't care what your answer is. The reality is that conservatives have been turning the temperature up on the rhetoric. They have been making fun of these types of events for years, and now when something happens to them, now they're looking for sympathy from the liberal side. Absolutely not. It's insane. It's unhinged. You can conduct yourself in such a manner and expect people to feel sorry when things happen.
Why should anybody on the right listen to a word of your hectoring and lecturing about how they should behave? And by the way, for the record,
they already said it. They already have been doing it. They've already been making fun of minorities and liberals and left-leaning people when bad things happen to us. They've already been doing it. They've already been turning up the temperature. They've already been saying shit like Heather Heart was a fat woman that died of a heart attack. They've already been saying that Ahmaud Arbery was seen passing through a construction site, so he deserved to be shot dead in the middle of the street. They've already been saying that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. They've already been doing it. Like, I don't understand, like, what is Piers Morgan's point here? Because, like I said, because the events that Destiny described and the events of how political history has been happening up until this year, conservatives have been setting the tone and narrative. And every time they set the tone and narrative, it has been disgusting and callous disregard for human life just because the person was black, or because the person was queer, or because the person was a Democrat, the person was an anti-fascist, the person was Hispanic, or even Asian. They've constantly been turning up the temperature for years. And this is the first time, the very first time something happens to one of their politicians, and y'all are expecting us to bow down and feel sorry for them. Nobody in the center or left, after, like I said, after everything that they've done, has any obligation to feel sorry for them, when the entire right-wing platform is built on Confederate revisionism and rebel attitudes about a civil war to overthrow the government for the benefit of white supremacists and Christian nationalism. That's been their entire platform for the past 40 years. So they, you know, are not the most deserving people of sympathy. And as we empathize with the that they go through, because even me, when I'm on podcasts like debating these people, and I say, you know, I feel bad for the stuff, you know, working class white people going through. But no matter how much I feel sorry for the stuff that working class white people go through, some people would never have any empathy for the things that black people go through. And that says a lot about the right-wing mindset.
The mockery of Nancy Pelosi's husband when he was attacked by an intruder with a hammer.
You know, I'm actually done there. I think I pretty much substantiated my feelings on this, is that at the end of the day, right-wing people, I'm not going to say they're completely 100% undeserving of sympathy for the things that happen and that have gone on the past couple of years or year or two and stuff like that. But what I will not do is ignorantly, promote and feel sorry for them because of, the things that they've done and the tone that they set the past 10 years.